Guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to clean your air filter and change your oil on a KTM newer model. And the same goes for pretty much any other bike out there. So you're first going to want to start with your air filter because you want to warm the engine up before you change the oil, so it will make the oil thinner. But you don't want to warm up your engine if your air filter has water or it's super dirty. So let's clean the air filter first. So I would really suggest wearing some gloves or whatever you got because the stuff on your air filter is very sticky and can harm your skin. So you just first start by taking out the air filter. Look inside your air boot, make sure you don't got any dirt inside there or anything. If you do, just clean it out with some paper towels. So you can just take off your air filter off of the cage. I mean, it's the exact same thing for any other dirt bike out there. Just take your air filter off. Every style is different, so you're gonna have a different model. So you just put your cage to the side, take your air filter over to the sink with your air filter cleaner. So you just wanna take your air filter, take some warm water, rinse your air filter with some warm water so it can get all the extra dirt and grime off. And then you can grab your air filter cleaner. I just use Maxima stuff, it's really good. Shake it up. And you just spray it. Needs to be shook some more. Spray it all over your air filter. Spray it around the edge and also the inside. And then you just want to work that stuff around. Make sure you're wearing gloves when you do this. Just work it around for probably about a minute. And it's the exact same process with any other air filter, whether it's on a pit bike or a two-stroke or whatever you got. So you just work it around, kind of squeeze out the excess, work inside the air filter, because sometimes if dirt gets past the outside, it'll come to the inside. You want to make sure you get the inside nice and clean. And then you could rinse it off with some warm water. Make sure you get all of that air filter cleaner out. And if you find your air filter still to be a little dirty and a little sticky, just repeat the process the exact same way. I usually do about 2 or 3 times depending on how dirty it is. Spray it all around the filter. And you work it back in again. And then each time you do it, it'll get cleaner and cleaner. If you want your air filter super clean, you can do about 3 times. If you want it usable but it doesn't really have to look pretty, you can do it 2. Just work this stuff all around. Try to get all that dirt out of there. Rinse it off. And after you can get all that water out of there, you look at it. It doesn't look too bad, but you could just put a little bit more on. Just do it a 3rd time. I like to just throw a bit more. Work this one in once. As you work this stuff around, you'll start to see that your air filter starts to turn really clean and not black. If your air filter is black and it's having a hard time trying to get the stuff off, just buy a new one. I mean, they're only like 10 bucks, so Not that expensive. So if this is your last time rinsing it, make sure you get all of the air filter cleaner out. If you don't, it'll eat away the new oil that you put in there. Just make sure you get it out of all the cracks and wherever. And always use warm water because it just helps the cleaning process and makes the air filter soft. After you get it done, don't twist your air filter, but put it together and squeeze it. Don't ever wring it because you'll tear it. Just squeeze it all out as much as you can. And usually it gets most of it. And then you just hang it to dry somewhere and wait about a whole day. So after your air filter is completely dry, I just like to take a paper towel and wipe down the air box, just in case there's any loose pieces of dirt in there or anything. And also wipe down your air filter cage, because sometimes there'll be dirt around it and stuff. So after you take the air filter, just grab some air filter oil, and then just spray this all around the air filter. Make sure you saturate it very good, and then work in all the oil. Okay, so after your filter's oiled and you put it back in the cage, put it back in the bike, and then I like to just run my finger around the edges and down there, make sure it's all pushed in, because if it's out, some dirt could flow past it, and that's not good. So that's pretty much how you clean your air filter. It's very simple. I recommend to do it every ride if you can. If you can't, every other ride. And then we'll get on to changing the oil. After you have warmed up your bike properly, just a side note, to tell if your bike's warmed up, you can put your hand on the radiator cap. If it's warm, then that means you know it's warmed up. You don't want it too hot, otherwise the oil will burn you. So just warm it up a good 3 or 4 minutes. It's pretty much enough. So the tools you'll need to change oil on this bike, and it's basically the same for any other bike, is you'll need some gloves, a 13mm wrench, 13mm socket, 8mm socket, mixing cup to get your ounces right, and your oil, and just a few rags handy. So changing your oil pretty much on any bike is the exact same. You have your oil fill plug, you have your drain bolt, which is always under the bike, and then on 4 strokes you have something called an oil filter. So the oil filter is right here. It's a paper filter. It looks just like this. They're just these things. They filter your oil. They're super inexpensive. I would recommend replacing these every other oil change. So I'm actually gonna replace that today. So just to get started, you wanna have your drain pan, and you wanna loosen the bolt, whatever bolt on your bike. Mine's way in the back over there. So you loosen that, let all your oil drain out, and also loosen your filler cap so a little bit of air can get through there, like that. All right. Once you have your oil draining, you'll see it's draining to the pan. Just a tip, changing your oil, when should it be done? Well, on some bikes, you can have a little sight glass right there. Just when it starts to turn black, and that's usually, if you ride, let's say, 2 hours on every ride, that's literally every 2 rides you change your oil. If you have a 2-stroke, you can go every 3. It just lasts a little bit longer. And you change your oil filter every other oil change, so that lasts a little bit longer too. So when that's draining, I usually just like to come over here to the oil filter, loosen those 2 bolts, take out your oil filter cap, and then take out your old oil filter and let that drain out. And also on KTM's, they have a little oil screen that kind of filters the oil too. So take that out and let that drain out too. Okay, so after you take off your oil filter, your screen, just let all that stuff drain out, clean up what's on your frame, and clean up all the excess oil, and then put all your parts out over here. So with the oil screen on these KTM's, I usually don't take this out every oil change or every other, maybe every 4 or 5, just because they don't ever really get that dirty. So if you take it out, just use some contact cleaner and just spray that off, and then check all your washers and seals. That one's good. And on your oil drain bolt, if you have a really old bike, there's, or new ones too, there's a crush washer. And just check your crush washer, make sure it's not bent or super thin. Make sure that's in good condition. Check that bolt out too. And then you're basically ready to clean these parts and then put new oil back in the oil filter screen. This is pretty self-explanatory. Just put the bolt back on the end and thread that back in and tighten that up. And then with your oil filter, when you put it in, take a little bit of oil and just drench the oil on it just a little bit so it has something to cycle through. And then when you tighten your cap, do it evenly on each side so it doesn't warp the part. Those two things in there, that's ready to go. Next thing to do is to put the oil drain bolt back inside your bike. Take this, put it back under there, and then we'll fill the bike up with oil. So this KTM 250 requires 32 ounces of oil, I believe so. I gotta check again. But just measure your ounces, use a funnel, and then pour your oil into the engine. When you start it up after you do an oil change, don't rev it up too much. Just give it a little bit of gas so the oil can cycle through everything. You can check your oil down there, whatever it says. Put the oil cap back on. And that's really simple. 2 easy things: your air filter, change your oil. If you can do that every ride, your bike will last you a long, long time. I mean, it's just maintenance. If you can keep up on your maintenance, your bike will feel better, last better, and ride better. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe.